So, in a week where we saw several exciting recruiting headlines, we jump into a weekend where we're instantly treated to a top prospect making their collegiate decision. As four-star defensive lineman, top 300 prospect in all of high school football, Xadavien Sims chose where he would play his college football. Many people believed this was a two-team race between the Oklahoma Sooners and the Oregon Ducks, and lo and behold, it's the Oregon Ducks who get a massive win over Brent Venables and the Oklahoma Sooners. Today, we need to break down what this means for Oregon, but also what this means for Oklahoma going forward. Before we can, as always, y'all know the drill. I have got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Are you surprised that Sims committed to Oregon over the Oklahoma Sooners? And let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content, and you don't want to miss any of it. If you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below. Those interactions seem small. They are massive to content creators such as myself, and we're on a push to 20,000 subscribers, and I'd love to have you a part of this unbelievable community. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And first and foremost, before we can talk about what this means for the Oregon Ducks, we need to talk about who Xadavien Sims is. And as I alluded to in the intro, Xadavien Sims is a top prospect in the 2024 cycle, a prospect that several colleges were hot on the trail after. He currently ranks as a top 200 player regardless of position, specifically coming in as the number 194 player in the nation, the number 23 defensive lineman in the nation, and the number 2 prospect in the state of Oklahoma. And when we look at this, Xadavien Sims is a guy that Oregon is going to be extremely excited they add into their recruiting class. Because for the Oregon Ducks recruiting class, Dan Lanning has this 2024 class sitting in a really solid position before the Ducks enter the summer months. One thing we talk about in relation to recruiting, no matter which school we're talking about, recruiting seems to really heat up during the summer. Visits are flying off the board, commitments are flying off the board, and if you're Oregon entering the summer with the number 7 recruiting class in the nation, with Xadavien Sims, they maintain that number 7 class per the 24/7 sports class calculator, and you have 12 prospects in this class, meaning you still have plenty of room to grow, but you have got a phenomenal base to enter the summer with. So for Dan Lanning, it's going to be really interesting to see how they maintain this level of recruiting, because one thing we all need to acknowledge, recruiting is instrumental to getting to that next level of college football, winning playoff games and winning national championships. Now, make no mistake, I'm not saying that's the only step. It is one step in a multi-step equation to winning it all. But it is a massive step, and there seems to be a direct correlation to the teams that consistently make the college football playoffs, that consistently win those games, and then end up playing in national championships. We look at where they end up recruiting year in and year out, and they maintain strong recruiting classes. So for Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks, they're currently coming off a top 10 recruiting class in the nation, and if they can maintain that top 10 range, I think it's going to be very interesting to see. Now, in fairness, Oregon fans, you are coming from Mario Cristobal, and one thing we all know about Mario Cristobal, he can recruit with the best of them, which is exactly why earlier I said this is only one step in a multi-step equation. The other steps have to be there, but let's get one thing understood. Recruiting is a massive part of college football. So for Oregon, this is a phenomenal win. And it's not the first guy you've gotten on that defensive line. This is the second guy you've gotten on that defensive line, and I'm interested to see what more work Dan Lanning and this staff do for the Oregon defensive line. But what does this mean for the Oklahoma Sooners? Well, first and foremost, I would be very surprised if Oklahoma bowed out of this battle. I think they're going to continue contacting Sims for several different reasons. First and foremost, he is a very talented prospect. Secondly, he's in the state of Oklahoma, making it very easy to continue that relationship. And finally, it is a major position of need for the Oklahoma Sooners. This defensive line is a position where they hit hard in the last recruiting cycle, the 2023 class, and then they hit it hard in the transfer portal. And I think when we look at the makeup of this 2024 recruiting class, we need to acknowledge it is littered with talented defensive linemen, and the Oklahoma Sooners are going to be looking to establish their base within those defensive linemen. So for Oklahoma, you would have loved for Xadavien Sims to commit to the Sooners. It would have been another drop in the bucket for Brent Venables and Todd Bates building out that defensive front. The good news here, though, is that you are still after several prospects, such as a Williams and Winari, such as a David Stone, such as a Nigel Smith, such as a Joseph Ajonye, such as a T.A. Cunningham. The Oklahoma Sooners are still hot on the trail of all those prospects. The bad news is nothing in recruiting is guaranteed. We know this to be true. We've seen this to be true far too many times, and you need to take any win you can get. And the Oklahoma Sooners wanted Sims for a reason, because he is a very talented prospect, and Brent Venables, Todd Bates wanted this talented prospect to be playing for the Sooners, to be someone that could continue strengthening that defensive line, a portion of this team that we talk about time and time again being instrumental to what both Todd Bates and Brent Venables want to do defensively. So for Oklahoma, while you're still after several defensive line prospects that are unbelievably talented, including 2 defensive line prospects that rank inside the top 10 players in all of high school football, regardless of position, in Williams and Winari and David Stone, and you are in good positions for both of those guys, you also wouldn't argue with taking a Williams and Winari, a David Stone, and a Xadavien Sims. I don't think Brent Venables would argue with that in the least. So I would be shocked to see Oklahoma bow out of this battle. Now, the last thing before we get out of here is that I thought it was interesting the other day that Xadavien Sims was dropping his visit schedule after he had released his commitment date, meaning that he is still saying he's going to take visits to this institution, and this institution, all of which are occurring after today, obviously, which would have led one to believe that the decision was going to be the Oregon Ducks. The reason being is simple. Brent Venables has a no-visit policy once you commit to Oklahoma. So at the point where Xadavien Sims was saying, oh, well, I'm going to take this visit in the summer and this visit in the summer, you had to ask yourself, is this a smoke screen or is there something here? We know the answer now, but I also don't believe that Oklahoma is going to bow out of this battle. I think they like Xadavien Sims, and I think they want to get all the talent they can along that defensive line, something Todd Bates has been able to do again, something he wants to do one more time. Hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking, though. That's it. See ya.